Okay, go ahead.
Great, thank you. I will call to order the Upper Arlington Public Library Board of Trustees meeting of Tuesday, February 16th, 2021. We have first on our order of business, the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Thanks. I would just like to say thank you to all the people that make donations to us every month. I really appreciate it. And I know they get thank yous from us, but I just would like to mention it. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. I don't see any public, so I'll turn it over to Kate, our Assistant Director.
Oh, can you not hear me? I unmuted. Good. Okay.
Yes. Oh, good.
Anyways,
thanks,
knows?
Kate.
We know everybody's eager to get back into our buildings, and we're glad they haven't forgotten their library. So we wanted to update you on our plans for reopening. I'm sure Beth has shared this already. The two things people consistently ask for is we want to come in and browse, and we want to use computers. And so I think we have a plan that addresses both of those. So next Monday, which is really just in a few days, we will allow patrons in for computers by appointment only. We were thinking a soft launch, and we have a number of folks that came in previously, plus people that have called admin and asked us, when are you going to have computers? So we were going to get in touch with those folks, and we'll have them in next week and get ourselves back into our swing of offering that service again. Then the following week will be March 1st, and we have plans to reopen the first floor at Tremont. This would allow browsing in adult services, in the youth department, in media, which is something people have been eager to do, we understand. This doesn't mean that you can come and study. There will be no study tables, no meeting rooms, no passport appointments, no friends sale. So it's still, you can come in, browse though, and help yourself to the collection, which will be great. And it'll help our circulation numbers. Mm-hmm. And they can get their own holds, and they can have a computer by appointment. So we're super excited about that. And deep every day is all meetings about all our plans. And the other piece of that is we want to run curbside for more hours than we did previously. So we're thinking Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, curbside would run in addition to the same hours we're open. So we'll get more details out to everybody, but that's where our planning is right now. And we think the public's really going to be excited about it. And frankly, we miss having everybody into the building. That's what we do. So.
And Kate, you said that's starting the first week of March?
Yeah, actually March 1st. So next Monday is the 22nd for computers, and the following Monday is March 1st. So wow.
So exciting.
It is. It is. The branches would still continue their walk-up service, so that we'll kind of wait and hold off on that for the next phase and really get everything at Tremont going first. So, but we have plans for Miller and Lane as well.
Kate, is what we're doing pretty much in alignment with what the other libraries in the area are doing?
Yeah, it is. And maybe Beth can speak to that better than I can.
Yeah, so the Columbus Metropolitan Library and Worthington are open for limited browsing right now. Next week, I think Westerville will follow suit. And then most of the other Franklin County libraries will be going about on the same week that we are for limited browsing. A lot of them will still be providing curbside. The only library that I'm not sure about letting people into the building is Grandview. I don't think they've said officially yet, but I have my every other week meetings with them. We had been meeting every week because they have a new director for Southwest. And so she's following our lead as well and taking direction from her board as far as what they want her to do. But yeah, we're in line with what all of the other libraries doing. And I will say for those that were curious to know why we were closed, there were a lot of libraries in Ohio that were open before we were, but Franklin County specifically was still under a stay-at-home health advisory. And that's the reason why the Franklin County libraries were not open for limited browsing. And that advisory has since been lifted. So we had some staffing challenges that we had to work out, which is why our branches are not open yet. We still have some logistics that we have to work out in regards to staffing and social distancing in those buildings. But we knew that we would at least be able to offer limited browsing at Maine.
Good news. Very good news, because you're right. I think everybody is eager, to be able to get back in. And this sounds like a good way to start. Careful, but giving people a chance to at least get things they can.
And Beth and Kate, I just wanted to ask, how do you assess the curbside, how that's going for your staff?
I think it's going very, very well.
Yeah, very well.
Yeah.
We participate in curbside ourselves too. So we get to experience it firsthand along with the other staff, and they really have it down to, to the intercom definitely helps not having to have a staff member outside. It seems to be fairly seamless. And the reason we're able to offer curbside simultaneously with indoor limited browsing is that we only need 2 staff members to be able to run the intercom system. So yeah, the staff really like it. And a great shout out goes to Greg and his staff for making the IT part of that work. It's really the only reason why we're able to do what we're doing right now.
Yeah. Well, kudos to all of you, really. And it's quick. I mean, I've never had to wait very long, even when there's been a line of cars, it just goes pretty fast. So it's good. Okay. Thank you, Kate. And now we'll go to Beth, I think, for the director's report.
Okay, so I've attached some of a summary of annual statistics to my report. I didn't pull everything. There were a lot of statistics that we did not, we really weren't of any significance, as like programming. Obviously, we didn't have a lot of programming. A lot of it was done either recorded and posted on YouTube. I'm more than happy to share those statistics as well, but I really wanted to focus on certain things in particular, such as circulation. Our annual circulation was down about 800,000 items, but I will say that the majority of circulated items are chosen by browsing. So although people were able to put requests on items, sometimes you just don't know what you want. So that really has a lot to do with the number of items that are circulated. But I will share some interesting statistics as far as the number of patrons that were checking out items. Another statistic that I put in here were material trends. I know this is a statistic that Chris had shared a while back. And so essentially what I wanted to show you were sort of the trends of different material types over the past 5 years. Adult books, and juvenile books have seen a decline of about 1% to 3% over the past 5 years. Obviously, we circulated a lot less this year. Audiobooks have declined a little bit, about 8%. And some of the material collections that have reduced in more significantly, it's usually due to an increase of availability of streaming services. Audiobooks, we have competition such as Audible. There are more audiobook selections on Hoopla and Overdrive than there are, so there are more options, there are more choices. Movies have seen an 8% decline as well. Again, competition with streaming services, obviously, and magazines have declined about 4%. So not as much as the movies or audiobooks. Video games, now we have a very small collection. We started that not that long ago. So video games have seen a 45% increase, but we've only circulated about 600. So in comparison to some of our other larger collections, even magazines, we saw, 5,500 magazines that circulated last year. So video games is a very small collection, but it's definitely increasing in popularity.
Beth, just one quick question on the
Sure.
audiobooks. Is audiobooks on this schedule like books on tape or on CD? And are you saying that if we have a book that we've borrowed through Hoopla, that doesn't show up as an audiobook circulation for the library?
No, that goes into our electronic materials circulation, not our
Okay,
audiobook selection. So audiobook is only CD, the actual physical CD.
gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Which that's the next statistic that I wanted to share. Our electronic materials selection, our circulation has increased 21%, but that was also, we had seen a 21% increase as well the previous year. So it is going up, and the trend is the same as it was the year before, which I find kind of fascinating. I do know that we've had some changes in, I think we had a lot more libraries were adding to the collections this year or last year due to the pandemic. So I know that there was more availability in digital downloads than there was previously, which could account for some of the increase as well. But yeah, our electronic material has seen an increase over the past 5 years significantly. Annual user visits, this was really hard to collect last year because we didn't have anyone. There were several months where we had no one coming into the building, and the way we track our visits is our door counter. So we couldn't really do that this year. So there were some months, the first couple of months, we definitely had door counter statistics. We had door counter statistics when we had our, I think 1 month where the atrium was open. But what I tried to do was combine the number of visits from those months with the number of patrons checking out physical materials, knowing that these patrons had gone through curbside. And this was just from May to December of 2020. So with those combinations, we saw about 246,000 visits in comparison to 573 the year before. Obviously, the only thing you could do is check out materials, so that makes sense. But what I did want to show you, that the interesting thing that I found was I wanted to compare, apples to apples in regards to, if I could only count the number of people checking out items, does that equal the number of people that were checking out last year as well, from 2019 to 2020? So taking into consideration just May to December, the months that we were only doing curbside, there were, in 2019, we saw about 93,000 people that were patrons checking out physical materials just at Tremont. And last year, we saw 125,000 checking out. So a significant increase at the main library. Now, our branches were closed, so again, that makes sense. But if you compare all of our branches from May to December, we saw 143,000 patrons checking out, individual patrons checking out. And then last year was 127. That was only an 11% decrease. So the number of patrons actually checking out materials was about 16,000 less in 8 months, which I consider that's considerable to me, that we were still serving almost the same number of people per month that were checking out items than we did the year previously. That I thought that was a very interesting statistic. Also, the number of items being on hold, I wanted to show we had a significant increase in the number of requests. So last year, or in 2019, we saw about 279,000 items become held for patrons at our branches. And this was all of 2019. And in 2020, 295,000. So a pretty significant increase in the number of items becoming held. But what that shows you too is that the 295,000 items that became held, all the rest of the materials were renewed or browsed, which is again why we are opening for limited browsing. People really get the majority of their materials just by looking in the stacks. The last statistic that I wanted to share with you was the items that became held. An item was received for a hold request. I wanted to show you by location. So in January and February, you can see it was a pretty equal distribution among the three branches. Obviously Main Library was largest, Lane Road was the second largest, and then Miller Park was the smallest. You'll see that it dipped all the way down to 0 in April because we weren't open. And then the skyrocketed materials that we saw coming into our main library in July, August, and September, because those were the only locations, that was the only location that was open. So all of the staff at main library had to scan all of those items, find somewhere to put them on the shelves. So it was a significant amount that we were seeing coming through in our building. I mean, comparing 16,000 in January to 29,000 in July, that's a significant amount of work that the staff were doing to get those items into the hands of patrons. So I'm going to pause for a minute. Are there any other questions about statistics or anything else that you were interested in or would like to see?
I like your analysis on the patron serve. That was an eye opener. I'm glad we're still serving the bulk of our patrons in one way or another. Not as
Right.
much, but it's great.
Thanks.
I was surprised to see that the numbers really aren't that far down as far as we were expecting. I mean, yeah, there's not much in terms of books being checked out after just in general circulation browsing because we didn't allow browsing.
Right.
But in terms of the service we provide, it is not that far off from last year. It's very impressive that we're
I was very happy to see. But that also shows you the number of people coming into our buildings for programming and for meeting room usage and for studying is also a significant part of what we do. That's why gather is part of our tagline. Someday we'll get back there someday. So moving on, the marketing study. We have contracted the services of Stacy McGintyre Consulting and Corey Kerr Communications. They have been collecting and analyzing data from our community and on our current marketing and promotional strategies. They're going to help us to develop our position and a branding strategy for the library. Right now, they've been interviewing community members. I know that there have been about 25 plus individual interviews that Stacy has conducted to gauge the value and usage of the library from individuals and how they feel about the library, and especially in concerns to the support of any upcoming levy. We will be having her coming in and speaking with the staff at the end of this month. So they're wrapping up. It was a 6-week-long process. And as soon as I will have more information to share with the board at the next board meeting.
Are they getting a fairly good return rate on the surveys and other things?
Yeah, so the last time I knew, last week we had about 665 submissions for the survey, and that as well as the interviews. And it was a pretty lengthy survey. So I'm very happy to know that so many people in the community filled it out. And she reached out to many, many different organizations within the community. The city was kind enough to put it in their email newsletter multiple times. So I think that's why we've gotten such a great return rate. Okay, go ahead, Gloria.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I shared it with a whole bunch of people and actually had some people say, I did do the survey. And I had a chance to talk to Stacy, and she's really good, I think. So I'm really looking forward to, how she pulls all this together and what she shares with us.
She is also a resident of Upper Arlington. She has a vested interest in the success of the library as well. So feel very good about having her on our team. For those of you that are interested, if you have not had a chance to attend the library trustee workshop, the OLC has a all-day library trustee workshop. It's virtual. It's on March 6th from 8:45 to 4:30. The registration is due by February 28th. So if you are interested in attending, if you could please let Allison know, she can get you registered. And I wanted to just let you know that I was able to present for the Tri-Village Rotary at the end. Oh, that's a typo. I found a typo. January, not February. January, and Leadership UA in January. I also have 2 more speaking engagements scheduled, one with the UA Rotary in March, and I'll be on the podcast for the Tri-Village Chamber. I also had the opportunity to be a guest for the NPR Student Podcast Challenge who was a 3rd grade student at Tremont Elementary School, and the topic was banned books. So I enjoyed having that podcast opportunity with one of our students. That was a lot of fun. So that is all I have for my report. Are there any other questions?
Beth, you had put on there something about levy discussion. Could you send us either a document or a link to a document that says what the board can do or not do with levy versus what a PAC can do or not do? I know
Sure.
it would refresh my memory, and we've got some new board members that might be helpful.
I do. I have, what I can send you is copies of the OLC ballot workshop handbook that specifically details what the PACR is responsible for and what the board can be responsible for, and what the library and the library staff are responsible for, and what you can and can't do. I know that Gloria and Peter and I had talked about adding this discussion topic to the agenda. I know we had John Kraska from Every Library present at our special meeting, and wanted to know if there was any discussion that we wanted to have in regards to the upcoming levy.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about that. Just have you guys considered what the next steps with him would be? I mean, based on that conversation, I didn't know what the next steps would be, and if everyone felt like it was necessary to continue engaging or whatnot.
I think it depends. I think some of the topics that he brought up in regards to community sentiment will be dependent on how involved he is with us in regards to our campaign. And I think that will also be dependent on what the levy will be. Will it be a renewal? Will it be a renewal plus an increase? And those are discussions that the board would need to have to make those decisions. I do have time scheduled over the next year about we were going to request different millage rates from the county auditor in August, and then have a board discussion in September in regards to those rates, and determine what our plan A, plan B would be in regards to what we would decide to, what the board would decide to do in regards to what millage we would be asking for, or if it would be just a renewal, because I think those will be very different scenarios of how we address that and how much help he would have to be to us.
That makes sense.
Sounds good.
And I think we would, I remember this correctly, Beth, you had talked about even maybe having a retreat or some kind of special meeting where we talked a lot about the levy and.
Right.
And,
So I have that slated for September. I didn't want to do it too early because we want to have the actual numbers, the actual, like what the different millages would equal. And so we know what kind of money that we're talking about. And that way the board could make the decision on what we do in the future. And at that levy retreat, not only would we discuss the different millage rates, but we would also do what would happen if the levy passed, what would happen if the levy failed, and also what is our slogan, what are we running on? John talks a lot about, are we running on our successes, or are we running on things that we need to fix? And that's something that we would need to discuss as a group and determine what that is. How are we going to be approaching the community on this topic? And I have that scheduled for September. No specific, I think it was scheduled, I think it was the board meeting, but if we have to take more time for that, we can do a special meeting at that time.
Okay. And we would also, at some point, and then probably have you, Lori, any of you talk about your needs as well. As we decide whether we're going to just, get a replacement or ask for more?
Yeah, there's a lot to consider. We have capital projects that need funded. We know sort of what most of those are. We know where we need to be in terms of staffing. We're having discussions right now about increase of minimum wage and how that's going to impact the library. There's a lot of things that we will need to consider in terms of, how do we keep the library not just sustainable, but how do we plan for the future?
Right.
Okay. A couple things to keep in mind also, Beth, is along there someplace in order to advertise, build flyers and yard signs about raising money for the PAC. And also a community, members of a community committee that will help us advertise that too. So a couple of other things that are very helpful.
Yeah, I had fortunately had reached out to our treasurer, and he had given me a list of members that had worked on the campaign last time. And so I know, when it comes time to reach out to them and start having those discussions as well.
Okay, good.
Okay, great. Okay. Anything else for Beth? Anybody? Okay. If not, next is the Finance Committee, and Kevin or Lori. Lori, I guess you want to go first?
I'll get started. I just wanted to let you know that the PLF for January and February have been above the estimates that the Ohio Department of Taxation had estimated, almost as much as 20% for January alone. So the public library funding so far this year is looking very good. We hope that continues on that path. I also wanted to let you know that I have requested tax advances from the county auditor. To date, I've received a little over $1 million. I've invested more than half of that in Star, Ohio, just so that we can get some return on our money. And the other we are using for operating expenses. We'll get the final settlement in March. I'm also preparing the 2020 annual report that must be submitted to the state auditors by the end of the month. We will be due for an audit this year of 2019 and 20. Not sure when that will take place, but we do have an accounting firm that was the low bid. That process was through the state auditor's office, and it's Harris and Company out of Cleveland. I have worked with them in the past. Of course, I'm going to be on the other end, so we'll see how that goes. But I'll let you know when that will take place. I'm assuming not till spring. Anyone have any questions or concerns? Okay, Kevin, do you want to discuss what we talked about at the Finance Committee?
I would love to. Thank you, Lori. Yeah, so we spent some time looking at the January results, which were good. We spent most of our time, I would say, covering two specific topics. The first was looking at our healthcare plan and some information that the staff had pulled together for us to review that. We are still sort of in early days in our analysis of that and what our options might be going forward. But that is something the Finance Committee is looking at. And then the second thing is we looked at our projections, our 5-year projections based on where the results came in for 2020, and primarily in the context of what things might look like for a levy. As it stands right now, I would say, barring something unforeseen, we expect the library to be in a strong financial position when we start that levy process. And that's something that I think we'll have plenty of discussion about in August or September when we get together as a board to consider what our options are for the levy campaign. So those were really the highlights from the the February meeting.
Gloria, you're muted.
You're muted.
Any questions, anybody? you know, that it's interesting that you're doing the look at the health insurance, and I think that's a good thing. You know, you can't start too early, I think, to try to figure out some of those and some of that in terms of cost, especially since we're looking at the levy. So I commend you on that. Okay, if there are no other questions, Operations Committee, Peter?
We did meet for a near record 8 minutes last month, earlier this month, actually. Mostly we just got an overview of security incidents that occurred last year, which were remarkably down from previous years because we just don't have very many patrons coming through our doors. So we had, we talked about the 42, and this is on page 18 of your materials, but it's, we had 42 incidents of behavioral issues, 8 of which were mask violations, probably not surprised there, and a couple of aggressive behavior, nothing that required the Upper Arlington Police Department to show up. So pretty mild year. Hopefully next year it's a lot more exciting and thrilling for the incident report. I like to see a little more police action here at the, especially at Miller Road. I think the Miller Park location could use some scandal. That's my hope for 2021. That's what we talked about.
Spoken like a true attorney.
He's looking for work.
Not that kind of work, man. Whew.
Okay. All right. Well, if there are no questions for Peter, I think we're good. You know, I just, again, commend the staff. You can't do it enough, I don't think, with all that they, you know, changes and adjustments practically daily. So, but, you know, it's good to see the statistics because obviously we're still, you know, doing great things with the community, and that's why we're here. So we appreciate all that the staff has been doing with that. I don't really have anything else unless anyone else has something they would like to add or an issue they would like to raise. If not, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Our next board meeting will be Tuesday, March 16th at 5 p.m. via Zoom. So thanks, everybody.